Hello, everyone, and Happy New Year 2024. I would like to welcome you back to the Happiness Journey with Dr. Dan podcast, where every journey is worth living. My name is Dr. Dan, and I'm your host for today's episode. I'm a bilingual neuro-linguistic programming and cognitive behavior psychotherapist specializing in anger management issues, both court-appointed and private, marriage counseling using the EFT method, dissociative disorders, narcissistic personality disorders, depression, anxiety, dream analysis, and also provide life, business, and retirement coaching support. I provide individual one-on-one session in both French or English and also do group settings. If you need any assistance, reach out to DMV Therapy and Coaching Services at 301-325-1550, and our website can be found at lifecoachdanamzalai.com. Today, I'm very excited to have for our seventh episode of season 19 a very special guest in his personal ayahuasca journey in taking psychedelic to make sense of life and increasing his meditation capabilities. Nico Lagan. And just like every of my past episode, I will leave it up to the guests to properly introduce themselves, as no one can do a better job. Nico, the floor is yours.
I'll start by saying hi. Thanks for having me on. And it, it, I would describe myself as just an eternal student. I think I'd keep it that simple. I'm always looking. I'm a jack of all trade. I know a bit about absolutely everything. So this is how I describe myself.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you very much for the very brief description. We're just going to go directly into your journey. So explain to us a little bit more about this term, which I've never heard before, the ayahuasca, spelled Ayahuasca. So explain to our listeners, what is that all about?
Ayahuasca is a drug. Hold on. I would get smacked for saying this. I can think about all of the people that I know. Let's call it a medicine that's been developed in the Amazon basin. So it's been around for hundreds of years, if not thousands. I can't remember the exact date, but it's been around for a very long time. And it's basically two roots that are mixed together. So two roots, one that has a very high content of DMT, and the other that slows down the process of the body's absorption of DMT. Because DMT is found everywhere, it's in basically everything around us, but our body tends to break it down so fast that it doesn't have any effect on us. It's about one of the only food that your brain actually wants. There's a barrier between your brain and the rest of your body,
Sure.
and it will actually, if you have DMT in your body, it wants it. So that's why it's broken down so fast. So one of the root extremely high in DMT, and the other root acts like a slowing down agent that forces your body to absorb it extremely fast,
Okay.
which gives you the high experience, however you want to call it.
Okay.
So it's really they boil both of them together, they extract the juices, and it creates, depending on the spices that they use, because a lot of people, like, depending on the tribe that actually produced it, they will add other component like herbs so that it tastes a bit different, because it's horrendous. Like, that stuff does not taste good. It tastes terrible.
Okay.
It's red, very viscous, but it is a psychedelic. It's a natural psychedelic that was invented by, as crazy as it sounds, it was invented by Indians in the middle of the jungle.
So we say invented, but it's nature who provide this DMT, isn't it? When you say
It-
invented, did they
oh,
plant a specific seed to get that psychedelic, or it just came from nowhere?
the interesting part in this is that there's thousands, if not millions, of different plants in the Amazon basin. Somehow, men wearing diapers walking around the jungle figured out the two roots that are needed in order to be able to experience the high of DMT. This is why I say invented, but what are the chances that guys with no technology, and
Knowledge.
I'm going to use air quotes here, that they don't have any molecular technology to analyze what those are,
Yes.
knew that they needed to mix them together in order to experience it. Like, it's incredible. That's why I say invented. I think God has a big role to play in there, and nothing happens. Nothing's a coincidence. Everything happens for a reason. So, but this is still what happened. Like, we're talking about people that lived in the jungle. They knew somehow to mix both of those roots together, and they started experiencing the effect that it creates. Obviously, there are shamans that used to use them, and they
Mhm.
would experience that they would try to interpret what was going on, try to take what they were seeing and make sense of it. Like you, from me, you're probably a fan of Carl Jung as a psychologist.
Mhm.
You know, Carl Jung analyzed dreams.
Mhm.
Shamans analyze their experience and try to make sense of it, try to communicate with spirits, try to communicate with everything else that's in our universe.
So if you mentioned about those two roots having to be combined together, so if it takes one of those roots without the other that kind of like counter effect the absorption level, will it kill someone?
No, it wouldn't do anything because DMT is everywhere. Like there's levels of DMT in basically everything around you. It is really something that is produced naturally. It's just that it is absorbed by your body so fast that you'll never get the effect of it unless you have a slow down agent. There's a word for it. I just cannot remember how it's called, but it's just there's an agent that slows down the absorption process, allowing you to experience it. So it's not like psilocybin, for example. It's not like magic mushroom where
I was about to.
by well, I just noticed that I have my magic mushroom shirt on. Like if you look,
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah.
just a big magic mushroom is one of my favorite shirts. I wear it all the time, but it's not psilocybin is naturally found in the mushroom exactly how they are, right? It's something that you can find if you know how to identify them. They're
Yes,
in nature.
I see.
Ayahuasca is really mixed too, which is why I think it's extraordinary. The effects are are very different yet similar as well, just so you know. But
Mm.
it's yeah, it's more ceremonial. Like
I
if
see.
you look at ayahuasca, it is really every time I've done it in Peru and I've also done it in Canada. I know a couple of shamans in Canada that are legally able to have it because they're part of certain churches. Like there's two or three churches in Canada that are allowed to import it
Okay,
from South America. So I've done quite a few ceremonies in Canada, and it's really this. It's all about place, settings. It's all about your intentions. It's about you normally go into a ayahuasca ceremony with intentions, like you're trying to deal with something. It could be PTSD, it could be trauma, it could be that you're trying to make sense of what's going on right now. It might just be that you're trying to understand certain behaviors that you have. So it's really you every this is what I like about ayahuasca so much is really the ceremony aspect of it.
I
Is
see.
that it's not just you drinking that by yourself somewhere without knowing what you're doing.
Okay, I see. Do you feel now, Nico, that doctors, eventually the medical industry, will start healing or kneeling more into psychedelic because it does give a better effect, or it will help their patient get better?
No, because this might sound bad, and I apologize. I know you're a doctor, but most doctors don't care. Most doctors about money. Like you look at big pharma.
Mhm.
Why would you? So there's studies coming out of John Hopkins University that's like what's his name? Looking at my books because I've read quite a few of his books. I'm just drawing a blank, but there's a doctor out of John Hopkins University that's been doing research since the 90s
Okay.
on psychedelics, ayahuasca, and on DMT as a whole. Because if you look at psilocybin and you look at ayahuasca, they're both DMT based. And he came out with the solution that they're capable of curing PTSD after 1 or 2 sessions of psilocybin.
Wow.
Really, 1 or 2 sessions, PTSD cured. So why would big pharma that cares about money, why would they give you that? They don't want if you look around you, and I'm somebody that's extremely healthy, like I've always been very careful about what I eat, the way I treat my body, the way I treat my mind. And when you start realizing that big pharma needs customers,
Yes, and customers
they,
are, yeah. Mhm.
and so why would you teach them how to eat properly? Why would you teach them how to exercise? Why would you teach them how to take care of their minds? Why would you teach them to meditate? Why would you teach them how to cure PTSD? You don't want to. You want them to take
You want them sick.
you want them to be sick, you want them to have returning customers, you want to have people that need you.
Mhm.
You could literally cure antidepressant. You could remove antidepressant from circulation within a few years if you start replacing all those treatments by ayahuasca or by psilocybin. You can literally make big pharma lose massive amount of
Billions
revenue.
of dollars,
So
yes.
why would they push it? And it's something that's dirt cheap too. That's dirt cheap too. Like ayahuasca is more of a process to make because you require a certain understanding of it.
Okay.
But if you look at magic mushroom or psilocybin, this is something that grows naturally. You just need to learn how to grow it. And once you have spores,
Mhm.
you're basically good for life. As long as you understand how to grow it, that you have the right amount of humidity, you make sure that there's no counter how do you call it? Because the thing with magic mushroom or mushrooms as a whole, they're very easy to get infected. Like if there's a outside component that
Yes.
is toxic to them, you will ruin your batch. But as soon as you start to understand how to properly take care of the environment, give it what it needs, it literally grows by itself.
But it has to be in a certain climate, Nico.
100. Yeah, 100%. Like your temperatures are extremely important. They can't be a lot of fluctuations in your temperature and your humidity. No cross contamination. It needs to be injected. Like when you're taking the spore and you're actually planting them, if you will, it needs to be done in a way that's extremely sterile because they're very prone to cross contamination. But the point is that once you have a bit of knowledge, everybody could grow that at home because it doesn't require a lot.
Okay.
And once again, one of the things to remember with psilocybin and ayahuasca is don't want to treat them like it's a party drug. It's not like alcohol. It's not like there's a lot of people that will.
Ecstasy. Ecstasy. Yeah.
Exactly. Those are meant as medicine. As much as I've treated them like drugs when I was younger, they're meant like psilocybin and ayahuasca, LSD are meant as a way to explore your psyche.
Okay.
And once you understand that it's all about setting, it's all about intentions, it's all about really treating it as in a medicine, not a drug. So even if you can grow it at home, it's not like you need a lot of it. Like I do magic mushrooms every few years, every 2 3 years when I have a calling, when something tells me I'm due for it. Same thing with ayahuasca. We did it about, I think I introduced my girlfriend to it about a year and a half ago, and that's the last time I took a substance that really changed my that really changed my, how do you call it,
Brain chemistry.
no, not my brain chemistry, but just the just the way that I see the world right now. Because have you done psychedelics? Have you tried them for
I have not
yourself?
tried them. No, I'll
Mm,
tell you that. I mean, I have had a few guests on the show that does talk about psychedelic. I have to remember the name because it's been last year. I am sure that you know him because he's been on many, many shows in the past.
mhm.
But is it the same as putting yourself in a position where I'm not sure if you remember the movie Lucy, where she goes into a point of like high level of consciousness and she's able to use her subconscious mind to be able to start controlling in a kinetic way or telekinetic way. I'm not sure if that brings you to a point where you're more aware of your environment and you're more inclined to be able to utilize certain part of your brain that will bring you extra power. That's what people think so psychedelic are.
It's very inaccurate because you're not in control. That's the thing. Like I understand what you're saying, but it opens up your mind. Imagine that your mind is a receiver and a transmitter, right? We receive everything that goes on around us, and we also vibrate out. Like we also put our intentions, our actions out there. So imagine that ayahuasca psilocybin will rewire that antenna. It will elevate your state of consciousness in a point that it will not make sense. Like you can literally smell colors, see sound, you can feel things that don't make sense. Like I remember on an ayahuasca trip, it was a beautiful day. Like we're normally the ceremony is done inside, and you have a bunch of people. Like you'll have the shaman, you'll have other people that are there to help you because some people have really rough trip. Like it's doing psychedelics is not easy
Okay.
for most people because you get to face who you are as a person, and you don't have a lot of control, as in you don't have any control at all. Whatever the plant wants to show you, you have to go through it. You have to take it for what it is. And one of the main difference between psilocybin and ayahuasca is one, I find that psilocybin is a bit more intense,
Okay.
but it doesn't last as long. Ayahuasca is not as intense, it lasts longer, but there's a purging component to it. A lot of people are sick. Like a lot of when you go to a ceremony, you do have a puke bucket next to you.
Oh,
You
wow.
have toilet paper next to you because you might run to the bathroom too. So they normally have helpers that are there to take care of people because you have to. So this is what's interesting about psychedelics is the way that it works. So I was saying how it rewires. So you have your prefrontal cortex,
Mhm.
which analyzes all the information that you receive.
Correct.
And then once it goes through your prefrontal cortex, it sends it to the other area of your brain or your body
Mhm.
analysis, like to be analyzed. Once you're going through, when you're using a psychedelics, it pops that filter, if you will. It removes your prefrontal cortex from the equation. So you're capable, there's studies that were shown of people under psychedelics, and they put them into an MRI machine in order to analyze the way the brain is functioning.
Okay.
And you can see that there's parts of the brains that are communicating with each other that has never communicated before, because normally everything is filtered through the prefrontal cortex before it is sent to wherever it needs to go.
So does it bypass it completely?
Exactly. Yes, it's like a, you know, you'll hear that a lot where people are going to describe like the death of the ego, like they're not themselves anymore. Because if you think about it, if you look at what the prefrontal cortex is, it's been put in place around the age, it normally starts forming between 5, 6, 7 years old, and then it starts analyzing everything that you experience in your life. Think about a doorknob. Do you really have to look at where a doorknob is in order to cross that door? You don't. It's just if it's at a weird place that doesn't make sense, you'll look for it. But normally you see a door, next thing you know, you're on the other side. That's your prefrontal cortex.
Okay.
It knows what you want, it understands what the action is, and because we have so much going on around us, it filters a lot of the information that we're bombarded with all the time, and
Right.
it knows what's important to us. This is why if you're concentrating, you're going to miss a lot of things that happens around you.
That's
Your
true.
subconscious mind sees everything,
Mhm.
but in this moment, you're focused on something that's your prefrontal cortex knows what you're supposed to be doing, so that's what you're doing.
But
But
then,
imagine that you remove that.
if that's the case, if let's say someone who is under psychedelic and they
Mhm.
look at the door, are they going to think twice about how to open it?
They might see the door might talk to you. So it gets a bit, it gets a lot further than just crossing it. At this point, you might have to have a conversation with it.
Wow.
This is the thing. It is depending on the psychedelic that you do. Some are more hallucinogenic than others, but
Yes. That's what I was about to say.
it it is the way you perceive the world is completely different. I have not seen yet a movie that has been able to represent it properly. It's a very hard thing to do. It's a very strange. You know, there's a movie, Miss something. It's a very strange movie. Like for most people, don't know that I would recommend watching it because it is kind of brutal. Like it talks about something that's very strange, but they have a portion at the beginning of the movie where they do take magic mushrooms, and they actually did a good job. The way it represents on the camera, the way it flashes, its colors are more vibrant.
Okay.
It seems that whatever's around you is alive. Like I've you um the reason I'm laughing is because you can go very far with this, but everything's interconnected, right?
Mhm.
Everything communicates with each other, everything's connected, everything comes from the same place. And when you do take psychedelics, you tend to experience the world as it is, without your filter, without preconceptions, without really thinking about it. You simply see what is, how it is, without questioning it. Like I've you feel connected to the earth in a way that you've never done before. You feel connected to others in a way that you've never felt before. In ayahuasca ceremonies, there's always music,
Mhm.
and they play very specific type of music because they produce very specific type of vibrations,
Mhm.
and those vibrations will alleviate the way they will make you feel better. Because you can under ayahuasca, you're so in touch with what's around you. You're literally, imagine meditation. If you're a meditator, you understand that the whole point is to be in the present moment, is just to be. Whatever comes, ideas, whatever comes to your mind, let it go. Like, just live it, let it go. You're just in the present moment. Imagine being in the present moment for 4 hours.
Oh,
You're just experiencing what's around you, and there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise around you all the time. Now you don't have the prefrontal cortex that's there to filter everything around you. Everything that you see around you, you see it for what it is.
but then is it like Adderall on steroids?
It could be. The thing about ayahuasca, especially ayahuasca and even psilocybin, it's hard. It is not an easy substance to take. As
Okay.
much as I've been doing it for years, every single time I plan on doing it, I take a week or two to really get into the moment, like to prepare myself mentally, because you have to be careful about what's around you. You need to be careful about what you eat. You need to be careful about what you watch. You need, because everything's going to come back to you. Everything that's around you will come back to you subconsciously, and it will just come out as it is. This is why it's so great for something like PTSD, for example. And the reason that it is, in my opinion, the only cure that really works for PTSD is you have your reptilian brain, right? Your fight or flight response.
Mhm.
And this is what PTSD is. You're so traumatized by something that every time you experience it again, your fight or flight response takes over and prevents you from making sense of it. It just re-puts you in the traumatic event,